because my mother was running a little grocery store and had 4 children and Paul. And the doctors had recommended that he be placed in a center that could take care of him. And my dad went to many places with no avail. Finally, my mother wrote a letter to Eleanor Roosevelt, and she opened doors for him to get into a place called Woodbine. A little bit of history of Woodbine. A philanthropist had bought a little over 8,000 acres for Jewish people who were being pushed out of their country, particularly Russia. And after that developed, and they built a synagogue, they built a college there. And then it was an agricultural college. And when they first came over, they were bad for them. But with the college, they knew enough about agriculture that it helped give New Jersey the name of the Garden State. So even today it's called the Garden State. But anyway, that college folded, and the township gave it to the state of New Jersey, and that became Woodbine Developmental Center. So Paul was in there for about 20 years. So he died when he was about 25, I think, something like that. So there was the 4 of us that were basically left that came to Sacramento. The reason we came here was because the kids kept getting sick. Us kids kept getting sick. One of the sickness was strep throat. And one of the downsides of strep throat, it ties into rheumatic fever. And so I don't know how many of us got rheumatic fever, but Frank got rheumatic fever. One of the downsides of rheumatic fever is it hits the joints of the body, especially it hits the heart, and it hits the aortic valve more than anything else. So about maybe 17 years ago, Frank had undergone surgery for putting in a new aortic bovine heart. And I remember picking him up because to do that, they had to cut his chest open along with the chest bone and pull it back. And then when I was taking him home, he had to hold a pillow up against his chest and said, "Don't tell me any jokes because I can't laugh." So anyway, Frank was very resourceful. I have to give him credit. I mean, when other people went in the Army, he joined the Air Force, and he ended up in Victorville, California. Started a scout troop there, and he did very well there. He was what they wanted as a mechanic. You know, usually you go to a mechanic, and a mechanic tries to figure out what's wrong with the thing, but they didn't want that kind of mechanic. They want someone who just followed the book and nut this, loosen this nut, tighten that bolt, and so on. So that's just what he wanted. And then after that, he used his veterans benefits for going to college. And Frank also was resourceful in this way. He studied the college professor to figure which one he could work with because he had dyslexia and had difficulty with writing and so on. But he had tremendous social skills. And so I think more of it than anything else, his social skills got him through college and got him a degree, a bachelor's degree in teaching. He had a fault that he'd stand up for what he thought was right. And he was working a number of years with the school district and disagreed on some kind of a issue. And the result was he lost. At any rate, I'm going to tell you a couple of little things about Marion has a lot of pictures and I'm going to show you a lot of stuff. But there was at least 2 incidents I want to tell you about. One of them was we built the red house, what we call the red big barn, and there was a hole in the floor, and it looked like a mouse hole, about the size of a fist. So Frank and I tried to figure out, is there a mouse in that hole? And the way the house was built is there was no top tier, and you looked down the thing. So Frank lit a candle, and I went up on top. I see the fire people here. Well, and I would I'm nearsighted to some extent, and I couldn't see down there very well, but I moved the candle around and happened to touch some tar paper down there, which started a flame going up the thing. My brother Joe was nearby. At that time, they didn't have disposable diapers, and what people did is they cleaned the diaper and they put it in a pail, and then they soaked it till they could wash it. Well, Joe was smart enough that he grabbed that diaper pail and threw the water in the diaper down the hole and put out the fire. So Frank and I were not. We used to wrestle a lot and so on. But one of the things that I remember about Frank is that he was a little older than me, and he was filling me in on the birds and the bees and things like that. When he told me the story about how a man and a woman copulate and so on, I was aghast. How crude, how vulgar, how much work it must be for the people to have babies. So, at any rate, I just want to say this about Frank. I'm very close to Frank, and he was a very great guy. I think that John did an excellent job in describing him. My wife would die if I would bring someone into my house that she didn't know. Like that, Frank, somebody off the street, bring him in and try and help them out and so on. So in that way, he was charitable to fault. So anyway, thank you for coming.